Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. I'm Darren Swenson on 94.9 and 99.1 The River and AM 1240 KDEC. Three guests on the program this morning. Earlier this week, we'll dump into the toy department for one of our guests later on in the program. Caledonia boys basketball player Eli King made his commitment to become an Iowa State Cyclone, and we had a chance to talk to Eli about it on Tuesday afternoon when he made his commitment, and we'll have that conversation later on in the program. We'll get an update on what's going on in Des Moines with State Representative Mike Bergan, and we will kick off the program this morning. Some exciting news about the availability of childcare in the Decorah area and in Winneshiek County. Some news came out earlier this week, and here to tell us all about it is Stephanie Fromm, the Winneshiek County Development and Tourism Director. Stephanie is our first guest this morning on Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River and AM 1240 KDEC. Having a conversation this morning with Winneshiek County Development and Tourism Director Stephanie Fromm. And we had Stephanie on a few weeks ago, and you talked about the issue of childcare and how it has been an issue in this area for quite some time. Easy thing is pointing out problems. Hard thing is working to find some solutions to those problems. And seemingly, you guys have taken a step in the direction of finding a solution. Tell us what was announced earlier this week.
Yeah, so we have finally gotten to the drop date. We've been working for about, just over a year now on what we're calling the Child Development and Discovery Center. And I think I had actually mentioned it last time I was on a couple weeks ago. That Winneshiek County Development was actually funded by a federal grant through the USDA that would help with some technical assistance in planning. So we knew that there was a problem for childcare. And in just working with some in-home providers and families that were trying to move to the area, businesses, large centers, it seemed to be that there's this kind of dire need for additional childcare, but you also have to incorporate just that safe reliability and quality care for these young people. So we had written a grant to the USDA through the Rural Business Development grant application, and we're actually funded. And that grant actually required a match. So it was a 1-to-1 match. So whatever we could raise locally was something that they would match federally. And actually, Decorah Jobs board members had actually contributed to that match their own funds, either from their business or them personally, because they believed in it. So it's been really kind of an exciting road ever since then. We've spent the last year working with various state organizations, an architect firm, developing and designing this sort of model for the future. And we knew that child care centers typically struggle, and we wanted to be able to build this center that would be sustainable. And in working with Sunflower, they're the one of 3 centers in the county that actually take infants and toddlers. And there's so much information here. I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but listening. So I'm glad it's recorded and they can rewind it. But so the way a center typically operates is you don't always make money on the 0 to 3-year-olds, which is why you typically see a lot of centers just take 3 and up. So they just take 3-year-olds and older. Your ratios are a little bit better, where when they're babies, it's a 1 to 4, sometimes 1 to 3 ratio for an adult to infants ratio, or 1 to 6 in the toddler room. They require a certain number of square feet. So you're not only paying for care, you're also trying to pay someone to work there. And that's not always very appealing when they're only making, anywhere from $9 to $11 an hour starting out. So that was also something that we really wanted to address in our plan, our technical assistance that was funded. So we developed a plan to create this sustainable business model for childcare. And when we had actually surveyed the workforce, the labor shed pool around Decorah about a year and a half ago, we found that so many people that had taken that survey needed childcare, but also there was this sort of underlying, like in the comments section, it kept coming up that we need indoor space for our kids to play. And it just kept coming up in the comments, and I'm like, gosh, that's interesting, because when you build a childcare center, you also have to incorporate indoor play space for the kids that are in the center. So in this design, we said, what if we took all the indoor play space that we were planning on putting in this building already, and what if we switched it around to where we could have it, the childcare rooms locked down on this end of the building, but then all that indoor play space ends up over here. So during the day, these kids over here in this building can still play in this indoor play space, but now we have an option of opening it up to the community in the afternoons and weekends to have families, tourists, schools, and in-home providers and other daycare centers. Everyone would be able to access this indoor play. And what if we created this indoor play space like a STEAM, so science, technology, art, engineering, and math? What if we created this innovative learning spaces, these innovative learning spaces that aren't just, here's a gym, but hey, here's some imagination blocks, build a tower, or hey, here's a Lego lab, let's build a city, so yeah, it's been, sorry. That was probably a little bit more than your one initial question, but.
Well, and the point is, it's a multi-layered approach that you're taking to this, because it's a complex question, it's a complex problem, and it requires a complex solution. And that's why I don't mind that you were explaining it in detail there, because this is a multi-layered approach to dealing with this issue. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, actually, so in the last year, we've been talking with, organizations like the Iowa Rural Development Council, the Iowa Women's Foundation, and they have actually backed this project financially, supporting our technical assistance and business planning efforts. And they are looking at this as a model for rural Iowa, and which is exciting for us, because over the summer we had spent a fair amount of time with the University of Iowa consultant. Her name was Deb Dunkhouse, and she was actually the Iowa City Children's Museum director for 20 years. And she did a bunch of research for us. She was working off a grant at the time, and decided to switch her grant to work with us because of COVID. But she had contacted various organizations that were like ours, what we are trying to plan, and there's nothing out there currently that we could find in the entire United States that is a child care center plus a discovery center. So the closest model she came across was like a single preschool room inside of a children's museum out on like the East Coast. So there was no one doing this sort of child care and children's museum combo where, the Discovery Center is not going to make a ton of money, but it will make some money. And we've done, we've worked with a small business development counselor in doing some financial feasibility. First Children's Finance has done all the feasibility study for us on that. But, we're able to access state and federal dollars to help with this Discovery Center that we may not otherwise have gotten access to with this just a child care center, and vice versa. We're able to access some funding opportunities for childcare that we may have not otherwise gotten if we didn't have the, combo, because it's so innovative. So how we are diversifying income, state, federal leaders and organizations are looking at us saying, I want to see how this works, or I want to see how this plays out. I want to see how supportive the community is with a concept like this, and how much, they support early childhood education.
And I know you presented this earlier this week to the Winneshiek County Board of Supervisors, as well as the Decorah City Council, the Community Betterment Committee. How did those entities receive what you were presenting earlier this week?
Yeah, I think we had a lot of positive feedback. No one said anything negative. They had really good questions, so I think one of their questions was, keeping tuition affordable. And that has been a mission of ours this entire time too, because typically when you have an in-home or a child care center concept, just standard, you're increasing tuition to pay your staff more, and you're always just barely breaking even. You just don't want to be in the red. Where this gives you a little bit more flexibility to not have to continue to do increases in tuition, because you have this diversified income. So you have this sort of children's museum concept over here that's helping offset that tuition increase all the time, and the stress on the families. If you increase childcare too much, what does that do for our employers? Our employers are the ones that are asking for more workers, and with a decline in our population, an incline in the average age of our population. We have an aging population in Northeast Iowa, so it's definitely concerning. And we're hoping that this is a project that will not only bring families to the area to visit, but also kind of show them this innovative concept of us investing in young people. And I think as a parent myself, I can see that if I see a community do something like that, and they already have blue ribbon schools, and we have some of the nicest people are from Northeast Iowa, and I think there's going to be a lot of attention brought to Winneshiek County because of this project.
There was the announcement that you made earlier this week of really the start of this campaign and this project. I guess when you're looking at the big picture of where it is and where it needs to go yet, where are you at right now? Where does this thing need to go? How much do you need yet from a revenue standpoint, from the public, et cetera?
Yeah, so we are looking to raise about $4 million locally is our goal. We have a capital campaign that launched this week as well. So $4 million locally. We are accepting 5-year pledges as well. So we have some people that are it's a nonprofit organization. So Sunflower is actually the owner of this building. They had shown interest early on, and we had spent about 8 months trying to find a location. And then in talking with Sunflower, their existing facility, which I know it's like 6 degrees of separation. It's every person I talk to is like, oh, my grandkids went to Sunflower. My cousin's neighbor's uncle's cousin also went to Sunflower. So Sunflower's been around since 1976, and their building they've occupied that space for about 30 years now. It was a former church, and is struggling to keep up with the need and the demands that they expect from it. And as the largest center in Winneshiek County and one of the largest in Iowa, honestly, I think that they deserve a space where they can truly thrive in. And so we have partnered with Sunflower. It's actually going to be built on their property. They own 3.5 acres, and the board at the time had chosen to dedicate the property to the project for us to be able to, use the layout and put the designs and stuff on that property. And they'll be able to stay into that space while the new building is being built as well, which is also exciting. So there's no displacement of families or children or anything like that. It's business as usual until they're able to move into the new space. So yeah, back to your kind of original question, the $4 million capital campaign did launch this week. We're looking to match that in another $4 million in grants as well. And we have a professional grant writer, Laura Freese, on our team. I think I had mentioned that last time too. And it's been a wild ride. It's been very fun. We had received about $760,000 from the state of Iowa a few weeks ago that had been released publicly too for this project. We were actually we were number 3 within the top 3 the highest award from that application too. And I think there's about 80 applicants. So people are excited and interested, and keeps us moving forward.
And how many extra childcare spaces would a project like this eventually create when it comes to fruition? Easy for me to say.
Yeah, the center where our phase 1 approach is 215 childcare slots. Sunflower right now has about 123, I believe, enrolled in their facility. They have a capacity of 123, and so it would add about 90, whatever that is, 97 spots to the economy's childcare need. So this is kind of this definitely will not fix what our needs are and not meet the sort of demand, but it will definitely make a dent in it and also help, create this sort of community space that other providers are able to access. In-home providers would be able to have access to this discovery center. Our preschool partners, I think there's 6 or 7 of them just in Decorah, would also be able to access this indoor learning space. And then schools throughout the region, field trips, class projects, Northeast Iowa Community College, Luther College, they would be able to have access to a learning environment for our future educators, our diesel mechanics that want to, show children, this is what we're learning in school, and here's a project that we can work on together with young people and show them, try to get them into an industry like that. So there's kind of just so many community opportunities with a space like this. We've worked with the Winneshiek County Conservation Board, their staff, on developing sort of a list of potential equipment that we could purchase that would teach kids about conservation and wind and solar energy and geothermal and renewable energies, and stormwater. Prairie. We're going to have all of that stuff on the site, and it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, so in the big picture, basically a community problem requires a community solution. And is it fair to say that that's what the basis of what you're trying to do all involves?
Yeah, yes. We're really kind of looking at the community to say, hey, your demands is what kind of steers our work. And when our employers and our people are asking for more childcare, I hope they find it in their hearts to give to something like this. And, whether it's a pledge over 5 years or whether it's a one-time gift, we're welcoming all things. We do have kind of different donor levels, acknowledgements, naming rights available. It's all on our project website, which is decorahdiscovery.org, O-R-G. And, there's a nice little YouTube on there that definitely talks about the project and the importance. And we've brought in some really key players from this project to be on that video that was done too.
And I would guess, since this is a nonprofit thing, any donations made would be tax deductible. Would that be correct?
Yes, yeah, you are correct. So everything is tax deductible, and some people are actually contributing through their IRA too, which is, that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, but they are thinking outside of the box because they believe in the project. Past educators especially are very excited about this as well. And so it's been, we've kind of launched this sort of, quiet phase of fundraising over the last, few months that we've just been talking to some people about, what if we take this to the next level, would you consider contributing? And have just gotten a lot of positive feedback at this point. So I'm hoping, once it's out there and we've gotten some state funding that have backed it as well, that we can take this to the next level and make it the real deal. Our hope is to be able to break ground next spring. And let it forbid here this coming winter. So we have, campaign that can carry on as long as we need to, but we're hoping it wraps up in 6 months or less. All
right. Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to pass on about your your announcement that you guys have made this week. Very exciting news for the community.
Yeah, I guess I would leave the listeners with, pledges or donations. This is a project that is very different than past projects. And, the contributions that are made, especially right now, early on, we are leveraging to duplicate. So oftentimes these state and federal grants that we are writing to go towards the project do require match. So for example, that USDA one that we had gotten last year was a 1-to-1 match. So every dollar put into the pot, they were willing to put another dollar in. So $1 turned into $2. And this $760,000 was all because of a $100,000 match that was contributed to that grant specifically, that we had raised early on. So it was, $100,000 just turned into $760,000, and that's kind of atypical. That doesn't happen all the time, but know that every amount of money that we're receiving, we are trying to spread as far as possible.
Well, Steph, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about this project, and overall, congrats on getting to this point. I know there's a lot more work to be done, but congrats on the outside the box thinking to hopefully provide a dent in what has been an issue in the community for quite some time. Again, thanks for taking some time to tell us about it this morning.
Thank you a lot.
Stephanie Fromm, the Winneshiek County Development and Tourism Director. Getting an update on what's going on in Des Moines with State Representative Mike Bergan. And Mike, when you look at the calendar, it's April 20th. How much do you guys really got left here in the 2021 session?
Oh, well, we've got, I suppose, a dozen pending bills between the House and the Senate as we they maybe take action on some things that we've passed and send back over with amendments. And then we've got a few bills yet coming through Ways and Means that will probably be addressed. But then it's our budget bills. And typically the budget is comprised of 10 separate bills. Historically, that's been the process. And we'll anticipate running budget bills for 5 of those bills through the House this week. Assuming that leadership between House and the Senate comes to what we call budget targets, kind of the overall spending framework. Once they're received, then we'll be pushing through with our 5 House budget bills.
As we talk here on Tuesday afternoon, you just finished debate on an amendment to a bill regarding mental health parity. What does the House want to see happen on that end of things?
Yeah, well, it has to do with parity for telehealth. So as we have seen through this time of pandemic, having telehealth offered with individuals and mental health professionals, we're looking at funding at the same level. And that has happened now and continues to happen through our pandemic and our health emergency. We hope that can continue once the health emergency ends. So we have passed that as a single standalone bill earlier in the session. It was not taken up by the Senate in time to meet our deadlines for our first and second funnel. So we've amended another human resources bill with that language so that the Senate will have an opportunity to consider it here before we end of session.
One of the things you mentioned in your newsletter last week was the bill that passed related to law enforcement in this state. In your mind, why was it necessary to take the steps that the House and Senate did related to law enforcement?
Well, I think there has been some concern just about, are we providing law enforcement with the tools that they need, the structure. The bill actually contained several small pieces of legislation that helped address retirement and their sick leave accrual to help with their health insurance after retirement. I think one of the focal points was some of the limited immunity that's offered for police departments. That's not a new concept. We have some limited immunities for state and local governments. There's just been some concern about maybe potential erosion of that through some court cases, and reaffirming the protections for law enforcement officers. So at least they're not sued individually, but sued in their capacity of the local municipality that they're operating under.
And how much of that bill covers the state patrol? How much of that bill would cover your local law enforcement, like your police departments and sheriff's departments?
Many aspects of the bill cover both the state police as well as the local police and sheriff's departments.
And related to that bill, I know there was a measure in there put in for those that take a peaceful protest and make them not so peaceful, related to riots in the state. Where in that legislation is the fine line between people practicing their First Amendment rights, but at the same time, people that cross the line and do damage to other people's property? Where is that medium in that legislation?
Well, I think when there's damage being done, that people's property rights are being violated, or people's individuals are being assaulted or harmed, crosses a line over from a peaceful protest. There are also limitations of blocking interstate highways and transportation avenues that really is a public safety concern for those who are participating in the process, and then for the public using the thoroughfares. So I think it's an item that I think that will evolve as situations arise. Similarly, with other areas of law, as we pass statutes, there's opportunity either through criminal court cases or through civil court cases that will help clarify some of that in the future.
Related to the budget bills itself, do you see any roadblocks in the way with those, or do you expect pretty smooth sailing regarding the budget bills in the coming days of the legislature?
Both House and the Senate work off of the governor's proposed budget, and we've used that as a framework. And I think when you look at the differences, and the Legislative Service Agency just came out with a package analyzing some of the differences. It's not significant. The House has taken some relatively strong approach at funding in our judiciary, where the Senate has been funding at a lower rate. And I think the other area that's going to take some discussion is our Health and Human Services budget. The Senate has taken an approach to phase out the property tax funding of mental health, as opposed going forward. And I think there is a sense that we want to be in a position to contribute more state funding towards our mental health, development, and disabilities costs. But we're cognizant that we are in the midst of a pandemic, and there's some challenges that are yet unknown. We've had some reorganization in our county region areas that's coming through this year as we come into the next fiscal year, and that we will be better positioned a year from now to make that decision. The Senate plan probably isn't too far off from a good starting point, and I think that we just need more time to look at the policy aspect of determining what core services that the state is going to ensure that's going to happen, as opposed to just leaving some of those decisions up to the regions.
From what I understand, Iowa is one of few and maybe the only state in the nation that funds mental health services through property tax levies. Ultimately, is that something that needs to go away and provide that more assurance, as you just talked about, in your mind?
Well, one of the things about the county funding of mental health and some disability development, disability services in that, because they are providing some funding, they're in a position to dictate local resources that are available and can be utilized by the public. And if we take that away from them, we're gonna miss out on some of those local input. They won't be in a position necessarily to use creative ideas to fill local gaps, particularly across our rural areas. The other thing is, it's important to mention that when I came in as a county board of supervisors in 1997, I served for 8 years, was involved in that local funding. In 1995, the legislature put a cap on property tax contributions. Probably at that time, we're funding property tax. We're funding 70% of the cost for developmental disabilities and mental health. As we've gone through, for that cap has been in place for the past 26 years. There's been no increase burden on property tax basis. It's payers. It stayed the same. But that share has dropped to about 10% of our overall cost. So 90% of the cost for mental health, developmental disabilities is coming with federal and state dollars, primarily through Medicaid and that funding system, but also funding it for our state hospitals and institutions. So that while there is a component that's local property tax, it's been capped for the last 25 years. It's not been an increasing burden, and it still allows our counties, our local governments, to have input in making sure that they can establish appropriate community-based services for their own constituents.
Final question for you as we talk here on Tuesday afternoon. I know tonight there is a public hearing regarding potential changes in the bottle bill here in the state of Iowa. What's the steam? What are you hearing on potential changes to that? Or is it another case regarding that legislation of a lot of talk, but nothing ultimately getting done?
Well, there's certainly a lot of sentiment to maintain the bottle bill, although there's, for the past 40 years there's been some cries just to repeal it. But given that there's over a majority of support, at least, to continue the bottle bill, we want to make sure that it's viable and functional as we go forward. So we're trying to balance out some of the issues. Certainly, we require sellers to recapture bottles and cans that they market as they put those out in the community to bring them back. But there's growing sentiment that we do not want dirty cans and bottles coming back into our grocery stores that have to meet food inspection standards, and they're looking for an alternative. We're also looking at the funding criteria to help support the cost of that reclamation of bringing the cans in, being counted and processed, and that cost has gone up over the past 40 years without a change in our allocation. So those are the issues that are at hand. We voted the bill out of committee last week. It's been set now for a public hearing to take additional input from the public and overall support. I do believe that there's still an amendment being in the works that'll come to the floor, and perhaps input from the public hearing will help identify some of the priorities for an amendment yet to come.
Mike, appreciate the update on what's going on in Des Moines. Thanks for your time as always. Yeah,
well, thank you for the opportunity to visit with you, Darren, and we're just looking forward to the spring and coming of the end of session here.
Mike Bergan from Des Moines at the state capitol. We're here with Caledonia basketball player Eli King. He made the announcement today that he will be attending Iowa State University to play Division I basketball. Eli, what was it about the Cyclones that made it the right fit for you?
I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I'd say the main thing was my relationship with Coach Schatz and the way I've known him through the past few years, and his gameplay style that he wants and his vision for me there.
And I know you had a family relationship with Coach Otzelberger, with your brother playing for him out at South Dakota State. Was that when the relationship really established with you as well?
Yeah, so he spent the year and a half before that probably recruiting Owen, and then so I got to know him a little bit then, and then while he was there for the year together with Coach Schatz, I really got to know him. So
how heavy did the contact become when Coach Otz got the Iowa State job, taking it from UNLV?
Yeah, him and Coach Green both called in probably once or twice a week for sure, and then we had a Zoom once now, and we were going to have another one this week, and we will. So it's been pretty steady, and they've definitely made it a point to know that they wanted me badly.
You're finishing up your junior year. What was it about the decision that you wanted to make it now as compared to during your senior year? What made this the right time to make the call?
I'd say I was very confident in my decision, and I had taken the time and the steps I thought that I needed to, and they were the school that stood out to me the most, and that's the school I felt the most comfortable making the decision with. So it wasn't like I had to get it over with now, but it also is nice to get it out of the way and just focus on Iowa State now.
And obviously you were very good on the basketball court. You're pretty good on the football field as well. What made you decide basketball over football?
I think ever since I was a little kid, I've always enjoyed basketball more. And I think I like football a lot and everything, but I love basketball and I've always loved it. And I think I could just see myself doing that every day more than football.
And when you look at your season, obviously cuts short this year with that knee injury. First of all, give us a health update. How's the rehab going? How is the process getting back to a healthy player coming?
Yeah, I think rehab's been going really well. I think we're still hoping for the start of July to be fully back. We're starting in a few weeks from now, hopefully being able to run just straight forward and jump a little more. Right now I can just do light jumping, so I'm back to a normal shot or whatever. But other than that, it's still a little slow, but I think hopefully if things continue to go well, we'll start getting into it a little more soon here.
How tough was this high school season on you? Your teammates made it to the state title game, lost a great basketball game to Winneshiek in the AA final. On you, how tough was that on you?
It was definitely tough. I would say it was tougher at the beginning of the year. I would say then I kind of got used to it and knew what my role was going to be. But yeah, I mean, still when you go to the state tournament and you're at the Target Center, it stinks not being out there with them. And obviously I wish I was, but to see what they did without me, and it was awesome to watch, and I still enjoyed it and had a lot of fun.
Did you get to kind of be a coach and kind of a cheerleader, coach type person throughout the year? And how did you enjoy that role? Obviously you wanted to be out on the floor more often, but was it good to be there with the guys, coaching them up and encouraging them?
Yeah, it was still a lot of fun and able to be with them and help them in any way that I could, and always just try and bring energy and bring excitement to the team, try and keep everyone else focused, and I definitely enjoyed it, and it was a lot better than just sitting at home and watching them from home or something like that. So it's still nice to be on the sidelines and enjoy it with them.
And in the short term, you mentioned you hope to get back to a full goal in July. Hope to get back to health at that point. But you look ahead to your senior year. What type of goals have you set for yourself next year, both athletically and educationally, and just from an overall life perspective?
Yeah, I'd say it's just taking every day, making the most of it, enjoying every day, and clearly at any point you could be out for the season or something like that. So I'd say just enjoy it in sports and in school and everything. Enjoy the bad times and enjoy the good times is the main thing.
And dealing with the last year, like everybody has, dealing with COVID last year, you qualified for state basketball, but didn't get to play. And with the injury that you dealt with, have you had to learn that lesson kind of the hard way over these last 12 months?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely been a lot of downs for me and a lot of downs for everyone, probably more than usual. So, but it's just about moving forward and taking the next step and just moving on, I'd say, and enjoying that next thing that comes up.
Well, congratulations on making this big life announcement here, and best of luck to you, most importantly, in getting back to health, and B, in your senior year, and C, as an Iowa State Cyclone. Eli, congratulations, and thanks for taking some time this afternoon.
Yep, thanks. Appreciate it.
Caledonia's Eli King, a new Iowa State Cyclone. Our thanks to our guest here on the program this morning, Stephanie Fromm from Winneshiek County Development and Tourism, Mike Bergan, State Representative from Dorchester, and Eli King, Caledonia Warriors boys basketball player, made his commitment to Iowa State earlier this week. One thing we probably haven't given enough attention to, we got to honor one of our own at Winneshiek Communications this week. Of course, last Sunday night, the Academy of Country Music Awards were presented. And they have a radio category each and every year. And the Small Market Personality of the Year from the Academy of Country Music, our very own Little Dale from Bluff Country 103.5 KNEI. So congratulations going out to Little Dale for his award as the Small Market Radio Personality of the Year by the Academy of Country Music. Round of applause for you, Dale. Of course, you can listen to Classic Country Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning on Bluff Country 103.5 KNEI. Our thanks to our guest on the program. Our thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube now each and every week. You can watch Our Town. You can watch me and our guest have our conversations each and every week. So if you ever missed the show, go to the River Facebook page, and the Our Town link is available right there. Our thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. Our thanks to our guest, and our thanks to you for tuning in, logging on, or watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River and AM 1240 KDC.